Salutations and greetings, everyone. It is I, Dezire, once again here to have a little bit of a conversation with y'all. I just want to wish everybody a happy July 4th. I hope all of you are having fun with your family, enjoying America's birthday. But anyways, since this is a later reaction to the actual debate, I'm going to do my intro, and then at the end of the video, we'll have my outro, but we're not going to actually have me listing and all that. We're going to list the memberships now. Those members are as follows: Daniel J28, C Stars Piplup, Mad Fox 94, Stephen Ramy, Spectre 799, Some Drunk, Scruffy Skull, Tom, Shad3 Milkman, That PlayStation Gamer, MK2396E. I do hope you guys all have a great day, and always thank you for being goats, and remember to stay almighty. But I do hope you guys all are really excited for this, because it's just us going over debate of Angry Vigilante, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video.
Aren't missing anything if you haven't watched the debate, because it really wasn't that good, for the simple fact we had so much technical issues. It was terrible. We could not get our audio correct, and I was hearing this horrible echo reverb in my headset for some reason. So I'm gonna play it real quick, because I found out the reason why I think that it happened was because I was live on 2 different live streams on my channel at once. And I think that's what it was.
Oh, and you didn't mute one of the live streams, so you kept hearing the echo from it.
Yeah, well, because I didn't know that the other one was live, because I never knew about restreams. And so they had me connect to restreams, and so I thought that I thought it was like Discord, where they were all sharing one thing, and then we each went live on our own separate things. I didn't realize that it went live all at once like that. Yeah. So can you guys hear that?
Nope. You have to share your screen.
No, you're not sharing your screen.
Okay, how do you share your screen?
Did you?
In the share screen.
There is a button called Share Your Screen that you can choose either applications, entire screens, or devices.
Oh, okay.
Forgive him, everyone. He's newer to PC, okay? He's new.
There we go.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Imagine trying to debate hearing that.
Why are you on YouTube light mode? Good Lord.
That too.
Yeah, imagine trying to do that. Wouldn't that be terrible?
So was that what
I've had to debate with like 4 people screaming in my ear, and that's not fun. I couldn't imagine debating with myself screaming in my ear constantly.
Oh yeah, and then also, because I had to repeatedly keep asking yeah, like I had to repeatedly keep asking them to like repeat themselves, because also with how that shadow guy is, his voice is very deep, so it made it kind of worse to understand him. The other guy, the host, his voice was a little more higher pitched, so I had to have him give like the talking points. And when I went back and watched it, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what the guy was trying to ask, and I didn't really fully understand what was being said exactly. So it was just terrible on that part. But I still find it funny, because we'll get into the second topic. But when it came to the second topic, I was correct on it over what the other guy was, and now it seems like the whole Nintendo community is like trying to play damage control over it, because they're all starting to do videos about the game key cards. Because so we had 2 different topics. Number one, the first topic was, is the Switch 2 10th gen? And like, I'll give the W to Shadow on this one, because I misunderstood what the topic was, because I was running around saying that the Switch 2 was actually a Switch Pro and not really a Switch 2. And so when he wanted to do a topic, he wanted to do the topic on, is the Switch 2 the 10th gen? That's what I thought he meant. But come to find out, what he was actually referring to was, apparently a bunch of people are saying that the Switch 2 is 9th gen because the Wii U doesn't count or something, and I never knew none of that.
I remember we had a debate in one of the Discords I was in, and it was a whole thing, because
I didn't know.
It's weirdly placed, because in some places the Switch is classified as 8th gen alongside the Wii U, and 9th gen is just the PS5 and Series X and S. Like on Wikipedia, it's like that.
If you're saying
But in
that the
other
Switch 2
places,
is Gen 10 when it fucking puts games out at 19 FPS,
well,
I
Dezire,
I don't
that's
even.
not how generations are really defined
There's
in
supposed to
this
be a
case.
step up from the next gen. That's usually how it works. This one did not. Well, it did, but not noticeable enough, in my opinion.
Yes, but how generations are defined in this case is when a console manufacturer releases their next console.
So you mean to tell me
So,
that they made a whole new generation that runs Switch 1 games good, but Switch 2 games bad?
Yes.
Clap,
yes.
everybody, clap.
Unfortunately.
What a fucking
Which-
device, man.
Which architecturally, the Switch 2 is more of a Switch Pro because if you look at it, the CPU, if you look at how Pro systems are designed, they really boost the GPU performance, but they don't boost the CPU performance as much, which the Switch 2 is kind of like that because the CPU is only 3 times more powerful than the Switch 1 CPU, while the GPU is
sad.
like 15 or 16 more times more powerful. So what some people think is that this was originally what was supposed to be the Switch Pro, but was then retrofitted and then evolved into the Switch 2.
I just think it's funny that it still has ghosting. The same problem.
Yep.
So
I
stupid.
See, I didn't see the ghosting when I played Mario Kart
oh
World with my cousin. I didn't see none of it.
So
I have tested it
so
myself because I tested it against a Switch 1 LCD, the Switch 2, and a PSP 1000. And if you know
Yeah.
how bad those screens look, they
Yeah.
look terrible.
So I'm just gonna
The
share
Switch
a
2
link that you guys can
did
all
beat
see.
out. Yeah, the Switch 2 did beat out the PSP 1000 screen,
It'll show
but it
you
didn't
Yeah.
beat out the Switch once.
the
Oh
entire
wow.
screen of each side by side. The OLED
Hmm.
is the middle one,
Yeah, and
and the
I
original
know some people are
Switch.
going to say, why didn't you test the Steam
Oh
Decks? I don't
wow.
have a Steam Deck LCD. And OLEDs measure response time and streaking completely differently.
Oh yeah. Like I find it funny. Some people want us to test this all out, but it's like we're not massive channels here. How much money do you think we have to be able to go buy all those things?
Blast is the youngest out of all of us when it
Yeah,
comes to
Yeah.
I'm still
channels.
in college.
Yeah, and when it comes
Oh.
in channels, I'm saying youngest because he's got the least amount of subs. Is the nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we're all not making banger money here on
Fuck
YouTube
no,
yet.
the only
you
person
know?
that's making banger money out of the entire Salt community is Fritanga, and
It's
I thought
free.
Alex
Alex
would have been.
is
Yeah,
It's
about to
free
say
to
Alex.
Alex,
Yeah.
but Alex puts all of his money that he makes off YouTube into his kids' college fund.
Oh,
So
okay.
none of that
Hey,
YouTube
very
goes to
smart.
him.
That's why I
Very
said
smart,
Frit
man.
because I knew Alex
Mhm.
was doing that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I
For
get it.
Frit, this
All
is
right.
that's like one of his jobs.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna get into the so the first topic. Okay, so I'm gonna give the W to Shadow because I didn't sit there and ask, because at first when they sit there and said the topic point, I'm like, why are you wording it like that? I thought it was just so weird, the whole 10th gen thing, and then I just agreed to it, and I thought that it meant, because I was running around saying that the Switch 2 was a Switch Pro, not an actual Switch 2. So we flipped a coin. I went first, and I said, okay, well, I'm not arguing that it's not an actual Switch 2, because Nintendo says it is. They're marketing it. I believe it's a Switch Pro. It feels like it to me over a Switch 2 and I said that the packaging was very similar. The UI was very similar. The design, when you look at it from a Switch 1 to a Switch 2, they look almost identical. One just happens to be bigger than the other. And then I sat there and said, when you get to the startup screen, completely the same. The UI is almost the same. And then I got into Mario Kart World saying that graphically, it's only just a little step up from Mario Kart 8. It doesn't look dramatically better like you would with something that's supposed to be a next gen. And then next thing you know, he starts going in to talking about the Wii and the Wii U, and I'm like, why is he bringing up the Wii? Why? And, like, I just got so confused and didn't understand why. And then he started trying to rebuttal what I said. He brought up One and the Xbox Series, being the same UI. I countered that saying, okay, but at least the outside the console actually looks different. You can tell one is completely
UI
different
also
than the other.
wasn't the same. Just a quick heads up. It's just not.
Okay,
No, it
yeah,
is. It is
No, it's
on
not. If you go back and you play
on
the original Xbox One and you compare that to the original Xbox Series X UI, they're not the same. They are
oh
just not.
yeah,
yes,
see,
but they use the
yeah,
same like UI currently.
Well,
yeah,
now, yes,
yeah,
because they still update it. That's
yeah. Yeah, see, I didn't know none of that because I never played an Xbox One and an Xbox Series X. The
I
last
did.
Xbox I played was the 360.
Last
So
Xbox
but
I
I
played was the Xbox Series X, so
Oh yeah. But we got so fixated on the graphics when we got to the graphics because he glossed over, the packaging. He didn't maybe he because I said a lot at once, maybe he didn't remember I said the packaging, but he didn't really say anything about the packaging. And then we got into the graphics, and then we got into also about it looking the same. He tried to make it seem like the Switch 2 was like way bigger than the Switch 1. And I just said, that's a little bigger. And he was like, oh, it's more than a little. And I'm like, nah, it's just a little. He's like, oh, the screen is way bigger. And I'm like, about an inch bigger. And he was like, oh, it's more than an inch when you include the Joy-Con. So, like pretty much there was nothing we could really do about that part. But then he got so fixated on the graphics, he kept asking me over and over again, like, well, can you give me, you know, some more explanation for it? What do you mean graphically? And I'm like, well, yeah, one looks better than the other. And I'm like, in my opinion. And then I used Donkey Kong Bonanza as an example. I said, if you look at that trailer, Donkey Kong Bonanza looks graphically better. And I actually go into detail. I say, it's graphically better in the fur. The fur's more detailed. The eyes are more detailed. The surroundings more detailed. And he just kept asking me over and over again to explain more and more. And I was getting confused. I was starting to get frustrated. Like imagine this, Blast. Here, I'm gonna ask you a quick question. There's no wrong answer. Between Nintendo and PlayStation, which one do you think has better first party titles?
For me personally, I think Nintendo because with PlayStation, basically all of them take The Last of Us and
Mm.
retrofit its combat into their style. So like if I'm playing God of War, it's still a third person over the shoulder game. If I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, it's still a third person over the shoulder game. If I'm playing The Last of Us, it's still a
Yeah.
third person over the shoulder game. When
What's
I
Killzone?
play, well, they haven't made Killzone since the PS3.
Well, are we
If we're
talking about PS5 versus like are we talking about
But
PS5
no, I
generation
don't.
versus Switch
Here,
or the entirety of it?
here, hold on. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, okay. So
Sorry.
you sat there and said that you like Nintendo more than you like PlayStation games. Okay, so um, can you tell me why Nintendo games are better? Just real quick. Can you just give me a quick why is better?
well, for one, I prefer the gameplay styles that they have. I don't really like the third person over the shoulder game. I prefer something like platformers or RPGs, specifically either turn based RPGs, which they have with the Fire Emblem series, or real time RPGs like they have with the Xenoblade series. When it comes to
Oh,
something like action adventure, shut your mouth. When it comes to something like action adventure, I prefer the Zelda style with the Z targeting and that
Okay,
style of
okay. Um,
fighting when
he-
it comes to
here,
something like that.
okay, okay. I get it. But why? But why is it better?
Well, it also comes to which I grew up with. I grew up with specifically Nintendo and Xbox. I had a Wii and a 360. I
Okay,
had a
okay, but
PSP, but
Okay, but here, hold on. But why is it better? Like, do you see where I'm getting with this? Every
mhm,
time I would say something, he would just repeatedly ask why, but why?
yeah,
Over
yes,
that
like
would
every
that would
yeah,
drive me insane. Yeah.
I could see
yeah,
that problem. And like for
yeah.
me, I can say, well, it's personal preference most of the time.
That's mostly
Oh,
what it
so
is,
then
and that's understandable.
so I just started repeating myself. I'm like, because I wasn't gonna play that game. I'm not gonna, it's like asking somebody, you point to a tree, you ask what is that, and you say it was a tree, but you're like, but why? And then you say something, but why? And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. Like that's the way I was feeling. It felt like he just wanted me to give him information to try to use against me in that debate. It didn't seem like he could really like debate it, and then I or anything. So I
He
sat
couldn't
there and
give a
just
rebuttal or anything. Yeah, that's
yeah, he
sad.
couldn't rebuttal what. what I was saying, you know, and part of that, and that was my fault because I did not know that we weren't debating the whole Switch Pro, Switch 2 thing. I thought, well, that's what I thought it was. I didn't realize what he actually wanted to debate, which I don't even understand why he would wanted to debate that, because if you ever go watch my videos, I've never once ever even talked about the Switch 2 not being 10th gen or anything like that. You know, I've never really even talked about
You
the Wii
just
or the Wii U
you
that
laughed
much.
at it being called the Pro because even Harmon Smith, a Nintendo shill,
Yeah.
has stated it's a Pro, and by definition, it's more of a Pro than it is a new console.
I
Oh yeah.
mean, as you know, I'm working on a review for the Switch 2, and one of the points I have is that there's so little unique software to just the Switch 2, not exclusives, just software that's not on the Switch 1, that in reality you're buying this thing to be a Switch Pro. You're going to be playing primarily Switch 1 games on it. You're going to be
Mhm.
playing your backlog.
Ugh. Oh, I'm sorry. People actually like the Switch. That's just just
Hey, I'll admit it,
mind-boggling.
there are some good games on the Switch. I love
On
Xenoblade.
I do not.
Agreed. Agreed.
Blast loves it. I don't. And
Oh,
then you have
I
people like Harmon who say that it's super overpowered. Meanwhile, he plays it while he's fucking falling asleep.
no. It is not. It is not overpowered. It's underpowered. Anybody
It's
seriously knows
it
that the Switch was underpowered.
No,
it
I'm
is
talking about the
underpowered as
game.
all hell. It
Yeah.
is the most equivalent that you can have with it is the PS3, and even then, it was released in 2016 using a chip from 2015 that was underpowered when it launched.
Now, here's a question for you guys. What do you guys
Yeah.
consider to be the best console generation? I got to live through what I consider to be the two greatest console generations. What would you guys
PS2
consider?
for me.
PS2, okay.
PS2.
I'd say either the PS2 original Xbox GameCube era or the PS3
Mhm.
360 Wii era.
So I'll
That
state
was a
that the
good one.
PS2 is easily the best generation by far because of the
Mhm.
Xbox original and PS2. They're some
Yep.
of my favorite consoles. PS2 is my favorite console, and then you have the
Yep.
360 gen right after, which is my favorite is my second favorite. I believe that the PS2 had the greatest exclusives out of any console ever because of Sly Cooper, Jack and Dexter, and a few other things I just can't remember.
Don't forget Kingdom Hearts. Don't forget about
I
Oh
thought
yeah.
Kingdom Hearts was also on Xbox. It was not.
no, it was not.
No, it
Oh,
was
but it
not.
also had
Don't forget
It was
about
a
it
Sony
had Here Comes the
exclusive for a long
Pain
time.
and Layeth the Smacketh
God
Down.
Hand.
But
Oh, Def Jam Fight for New York.
That was on all platforms.
I
But
Yeah, but
yes,
it was
that
still an
also
amazing game.
contributed to the
I gotta say that the PS2 still to this day holds up everything when it comes to what I consider a console. I don't believe
Oh
that
yeah.
consoles have even touched the PS2 and 360 since when it comes to exclusives and fun.
Yep.
I just
Oh
don't.
yeah.
I can agree with that.
Because the Xbox One
I
and
can
PS4 era was very, very, very bad in my opinion. And the PS5 and Xbox Series X, even though they have had quite a lot of good exclusives on the Xbox, well, it's not really exclusive. The Xbox has released a lot of good games this generation. Well, we can at least be honest, they have, and
Yeah.
mhm.
PlayStation really has not. They just have not.
No, they
They've
haven't.
done remasters, which is getting under my skin, and they've pretty much ruined God of War for me because instead of it being a hack and slash like it used to be, they've made it into a movie type game, and I don't like that. I prefer
It's The
gameplay
Last of
over
Us, but
movies.
with
And
a
then
giant man.
and The
That's
Last
what
of
it is.
now let's talk about The Last of Us. The Last of Us Part 2 is easily worse than Part 1. Easily. Easily. In every aspect, I hate it more than I hated 1. And I shouldn't say I hated 1. I actually really loved that game. I mean, I didn't like that there was a ton of cinematics, but the gameplay was still fun at the end of the day. I just think that PlayStation went from making games that I love, like Sly Cooper, Jack and Dexter, Spyro, which is now multiplat, thank God, Crash Bandicoot, which is now multiplat, thank God. But all these games that fucking I grew up on, and they went from that. Hell, even in PS3, we had Infamous and freaking Killzone, and now they're
And
just
Resistance.
and Resistance, and all of them just get thrown out. And I just don't know why.
Mhm.
They take all these really good exclusives and they just crumple them into a ball, and they're like, we don't, and they throw it away, and then they're like, we don't have any exclusives. I'm just like, what? What do you mean? Give me a Sly Cooper remaster, and I'll pay you $100 for that shit. You give me all 4 games remastered perfectly, I will 100% drop 100 on that shit. I don't care that it's old. I love Sly Cooper. Give me that day and date on PC. Ooh, ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
the
But
problem
okay.
with
I was gonna say so. With the so off of that first topic,
Sorry,
you
I wanted
know.
to go on a tangent. I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just trying not to have to do so much editing, you know. But yeah. So up of that first topic, like I said, I give Shadow the win just because I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't ask what exactly did you meant. That was on me, you know.
Mhm.
But then we got into the second topic, and this one actually started to get heated. At least I was getting heated. He really wasn't. I got nothing against Shadow. He kept his cool. He was not getting heated whatsoever during the debate. You know, he's a very intelligent guy. I'll give him that one. He knows how to speak very well. But the second one we got into, and this is the one I find so funny that a lot of people in the Nintendo community are doing damage control on, is we talked about who was at fault for the game key cards. He was, I believe he was obviously out that he thinks it's the third party. And I said it depends, on the situation. And Street Fighter 6 kept getting brought up a lot. With Street Fighter 6, you could put the base game on a physical cartridge, but you couldn't, there's no way they could fit the base game and both fighter passes. It's just too big. It's not going to fit on a 64 gig cartridge. So I think they should have put it on a physical, the standard on a physical, and then triggered like a download for the season passes. And I clearly said that was Capcom's fault for doing that, not on Nintendo. But then I sat there and used as an example for the smaller games like Tetris and Bravely Default, that those games are too small to put on a 64 gig. And when you're only given an option between a game key card and a 64 gig, like what are they going to do in that situation? So I blame Nintendo for not giving them like other options, because all that we know of at this moment is a 64 gig and a game key card. We don't know if there's any other sizes. And he sat there, it just made it seem like I was crazy, or my opinion wasn't valid, because he kept saying like, well, you don't know if there's no other cartridges out there. And I'm like, of course I don't know. None of us know. We only know of two. And he was like, well, did Nintendo say that? And I'm like, it doesn't matter who said that. We know physically that there's only a game key card and a 64 gig. And then eventually I told him CD Projekt Red said that they put it on a 64 gig, and it seemed like, I don't know if it wasn't comprehending or what it was, but he just eventually tried to get me to. He's like, "Well, here, can you prove that there's no other cartridges?" I'm like, "Nobody can prove." I'm like, "I'm not going to prove a negative here." It's like he wanted me to change my opinion, based upon a maybe situation, which I'm not going to do that in debate. That's not going to happen, And I kept telling him, I'm like, my opinion. I'm basing my opinion upon the information that is given
Information
at
that is
hand.
possible, yeah. You can't just
Yeah, there is no other one. And he tried to sit there and say that my opinion was coming from ignorance,
there,
because I was excluding other information out there. And I repeatedly asked him, "Do you have any other information? I will gladly accept it."
I would state that personally, I believe it's on both. I think it's on Nintendo for having a limit of a 64 gig cartridge. Let's say that there isn't one because we don't have any information. But I will also state that it's a third party for the fact that they can't fit it on it. If Cyberpunk can get fit into it, Street
Yeah,
Fighter can get fit into it, and it's ridiculous
which
that it's
I,
not.
I will say this. I have a Switch 2,
yeah,
and I'm looking at the PC size for Cyberpunk 2.
yeah.
Including its DLC, it is 84 gigabytes.
Oh wow.
84 gigabytes. They were able to fit that entire game. The entirety of the. So, to give you some context, on PC, the DLC itself is 23 gigabytes.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So, if CD Projekt Red was able to fit the entire game plus the DLC onto a 64 gigabyte cart, then Capcom,
Hmm.
where Street Fighter 6 in its totality is only 50 gigabytes,
Yeah.
they should be able to put it on a 64 gigabyte cart in its totality, including both fighters passes.
and I'll state
Hmm.
this. I
And
know that the others won't understand this because I went to school for being a game dev, but I went computer programming is what I should say. And then I graduated with as a computer scientist. The BS. If if CD is able to condense that big of a game, how can not Capcom do the same? Capcom, there really doesn't have to be that much. I could probably condense that to maybe 50 gigs with the DLCs and everything. Maybe.
Well,
And
it's
it
already
won't.
been condensed to 50
I,
gigs.
so then why is it not on the cartridge?
Simply put,
That's just ridiculous,
is
is it not?
yes, it is ridiculous. Simply put, this is on both companies
That's what I said. I
because
was like, it's
Capcom.
just, there's no way.
Because this is also the shitty part. If you buy the game key card for Street Fighter 6, the only thing that's on the game card is the key to the base game.
And that's so
Mhm.
stupid.
You have to get a code in the box for the
Mhm.
Fighter's Pass. Which to me doesn't say Capcom didn't do this because they couldn't. They did this because they didn't want to spend the money on it.
Oh
They-
yeah.
That's another thing. A lot of devs are starting to get really fucking lazy. And I'm getting tired of people being like, "Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be good." I'm like, "No, let's wait till it comes out and then let's find out because I'm not trying to be a hater on people that are really excited for games. Like I'm super excited for some games, but I can't stand it when people defend stuff going on the Switch 2 and it's stuff like that, especially since it used to be the family console. And I don't think it's the family console anymore after how they've pretty much treated everybody. The $80 games for Mario Kart World, the fact that Mario Kart World is worse than 8. Sorry, little side tangent. I just think it's ridiculous
Oh yeah.
that any game is going to be a game key card. That is fucking stupid. Because that means that if you were to get your console bricked, that game key card is just vanished, gone, doesn't work. Think about that.
Oh yeah. But he kept repeatedly saying that, oh well, you don't know if there's any other size cartridges out there. And it's like, and then he wanted me to prove that there were no other size. And like, how do you debate somebody with like that type of mindset, that's sitting here using that as the reasoning? It's like, to me, I was getting so confused because it's like I know that you're intelligent. I know that you speak very well. There's no way that that your logic is that kind of thinking right there. How do you sit there and expect me to prove a negative during a debate here?
If it was bigger, don't you think the other companies would use it?
Well, not bigger. It's
Like if there was a bigger one, though, is what I'm saying.
no, because we were talking about Tetris and how small that game is, but it
Yeah.
was put on a game key card, for instance,
But
and he was like, "Well, you don't know if there's any other sizes, between a game key card and a 64 gig."
we
None of us.
only know the info that was given to us publicly. Why is
Exactly.
why was he making a big deal out of it? Why was he arguing? That is a
The
I have
dumb
no idea.
only
fucking standing point.
I have no
the
idea.
only info that we have publicly is what devs have said. And what
Mhm.
devs have said is that Nintendo has only offered two options: a 64 gigabyte cart or a game key card. So for something like Bravely Default, which is only 10 gigs, why would Square spend the money on the 64 gigabyte cart where they're only going to use 10% of that?
Oh yeah,
For a company
exactly.
like Capcom, they have no excuse because their game is 50 gigabytes, which would have been using most, if not all, of that 64 gigabyte cart. They only went with game key cards to save 15 cents.
It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah,
same
it's
could go
completely
for
ridiculous.
Yakuza 0, which is also around 50 gigabytes. That could
Mhm.
fit in its totality on a game key card. The only reason that Sega went with that simply because they wanted to save money. It's also the reason why they're not having upgrade paths for Switch 1 games that have Switch 2 editions. For example, Sonic X Shadow, if you want that on Switch 2, you have to buy the game again, even if you own it on Switch 1.
It's
Yep.
just dumb.
Mhm.
It's so I don't
Completely ridiculous.
understand why people are defending all this crap. It's getting under my skin. I can't stand it. I just can't.
Oh yeah, I can't understand it either. It's just completely ridiculous, But um, it was like he had no problem with me saying because I was trying to find common ground in in the thing because I just wanted I was getting tired of debating. I was getting frustrated, because
Understandable.
it's like we're just going around in circles over and over and over again. And I think he brought up like a game that was about 20 gigs or something, and I'm like, well, here, and I kept repeating this because I'm going to base my opinion upon the information at hand, and my opinion is always willing to change upon new information coming out. So I sat there and told him, well, if a game comes out, let's say it's 20 gigs, and they put it on a full cartridge on like and that's a smaller one, then yeah, well, I can see that there's another cartridge out there, but we have no idea if there's any other ones out there. And he was just like, well, your opinion's coming from ignorance.
It's not
You
ignorance
can't.
if you have no information. That's
I
that's
know that.
is
I know. And so, like this whole time through this debate, by the time we got to that point, I'm like, do you actually believe any of this, or are you just arguing to argue? At this point, because that's what I was thinking. I just couldn't understand it. And then finally, the host, said, "Okay, this is the perfect impasse," because we were going around in circles. So at the end of the debate, we allowed the audience to name off or ask some questions. And I'll give Nintendo Prime one thing. Out of all the questions, he asked an amazing question for both of us. He wanted us to state when it came to Nintendo, name something that's anti-consumer and name something that's pro-consumer, which I think is an amazing question. So he went first. And this is where I figured out the type of person he was. He's just that typical Nintendo fan that can't handle criticism of Nintendo because when it came down to a pro consumer and anti consumer, he tried to give an anti consumer
I can give it
point and
easy.
said that, oh, there's just not enough games out there, which I
That's
don't
not
really think
anti.
that's an anti consumer
That's not.
because,
I
yeah,
wouldn't say that's anti-consumer because the problem is that Nintendo is being very selective with who they gave out dev kits to.
I
So
can
for
name.
yeah,
example,
I'll let you
so for
finish.
example, a company like Capcom got like a couple uh they got a couple of dev kits so that they could actually test their games on the console. Toby Fox probably got a dev kit so that he could bring under Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4 to the Switch day 1. But a company like Microsoft wouldn't have gotten a dev kit on day 1 or prior to day 1. They probably are now just getting those dev kits.
So
yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna say what I would have given because I have like I can name like 10 things anti-consumer off the
oh,
list.
so can I. Oh, so
So
can
here's
I.
the most
But
pro-consumer. It's that Mario Kart bundle. That was pro-consumer. Only $50
Yes.
for a brand new game. That's pretty good for the consumer. I ain't gonna lie. That is. Now, what's anti-consumer? $80 games, and I can go on.
yep. Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you in a second what I said, but then after you got to the anti-consumer part, because also, like whenever it comes to a new system launch, there's not a bunch of games to play. You're gonna run out of games to play generally
Yeah.
because there's not a lot. They don't generally release a bunch of good games, And I think he's already played the third-party game, so he really only had an option of two games, really, or two or three, if you want to count that Welcome Tour crap. But
No.
he
Well,
went to the pro consumer part and then he changed his mind. He was like, "Well, actually, no, there is nothing anti-consumer about Nintendo." And then he was like, "The pro consumer." Oh yeah, but get this when he said that the pro consumer part. Nintendo has a model; they release it when they want to, and it works for them. Which I
that's
don't really see how that's a pro
that's
consumer
not
either.
pro-consumer at all. Actually, that would be more
Yeah,
anti-consumer than anything, but whatever.
yeah. So then it was my turn. Now, I did not know that this was going to spark a whole nother debate. I thought he was going to answer his question, I was going to answer my question, and we're going to move on to the next one.
That's what it's
So,
supposed to be.
oh yeah. So I sat there and said, okay, well, for a pro consumer part, I said I was very shocked that Drag X Drive is coming out at $20. I thought it was going to come out at 40 or 50 like everyone else thought. So I think that's pro consumer releasing that at $20.
Hmm.
Then,
I
uh,
can agree with that because I
oh yeah,
see this as the ARMS of the Switch 2, and ARMS was a full price game on the Switch 1. So that means
oh yeah.
that Nintendo learned.
Oh yeah. And then they sat there, came out with, or then I said for the anti-consumer part, put Mario Kart World at $80. And I said, um, giving a tech demo like Welcome Tour and not having it in a packing title. That's what that's what I said for the anti-consumer. Then we went around and around. He agreed with me about the whole the drag X dry part, about that being pro-consumer, because even he
Yes.
said he thought it was going to be at $40 also. But we went around and around at the Mario Kart World. And the thing was, he said during the time, he's like, "Oh, I don't agree with the prices going up." And I'm thinking, like, then why are we debating it being $80 type of thing? Because he was like, "Oh, well, you can get in the bundle," and I'm like, "Well, I don't care. It's
Just because it's
it's
in the
gonna go
bundle
towards that
doesn't,
overall sale."
and
It's
Which
gonna
what they're
yeah.
gonna
e- even with the bundle argument, that's only going to be lasting until the fall, which means that it's only limited.
And then there's the
Yeah.
other argument that they're going to use it for sales numbers, like in total, and see, like, hey, this is
Yeah.
how it did. Means we should sell more $80 games. That's exactly what they're going to use it
that for
for.
sales
Oh,
arguments.
and I use that, and he was like, "Oh, you really think that's what they did with Outer Worlds too?" And I'm like, They came out with the $80 game after Mario Kart World. Whether you like it or not, Nintendo's always going to be known for being the first one to come out with the $80 game, so they're going to get the hate for it.
Hmm.
That's on them. And he was like, "Oh, they knew years ago that Outer Worlds 2 was going to be at $80." And he starts going
No,
in
they didn't.
to this long thing,
They did
and
not.
I finally and I really wasn't listening, to be honest, because I knew he couldn't prove it. And it's like, and I told him, like, "It sounds great what you're saying, but you got no proof. You can't back it up that Microsoft was going to release that at $80 years ago." And he's like, "Oh, well, that's how dev teams work." And
That's
I'm not
not.
a game developer.
That's not
I
how
No,
don't
dev
know.
team.
that's
That's
not.
that's
That's
not how
not.
dev team works at all. At
No.
all. Period. That's
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 funny.
so
That's
fucking
funny.
dumb. That's like a reforged
Oh yeah.
gaming
That's funny.
fucking quote.
I can tell
God.
you definitely that Outer Worlds 2 being $80 was a decision made by the brass. It was made by Microsoft. That was their decision.
It's a
The
it's a
team
mixture of Microsoft and the lead of the studio. That is the entirety, and and people that say, "Oh, it's a few years," no, they finish it. Once they finish the game and they start marketing it, that's when the game actually goes up and they get what the higher ups want at Microsoft, at what the higher ups of the studio want, and then they bring it up to the publisher, and the publisher either says okay or raise it or lower it.
yeah,
That's exactly
I
how it
can I
works.
can say this with 100%. When the dev team was making Outer Worlds 2, they probably thought it was going to be a $60 or $70 game. I can say that with 100% confidence.
Oh yeah. you know and then yeah, so we just kept going around and around about it, and he eventually got to it where he wanted me to define anti-consumership, which the problem with that is anti-consumership is an ideology. It's not really a word you can define. There's not really a set definition, so it's going to depend on per person. So he wanted me to define it, and I wasn't going to play that because I already knew what was going to happen. I was going to define it on what I thought it was, and then he was just going to like ask me why, or do you think that's what other people think it as? Can you prove it? And we are just gonna go around in circles. So I'm like, no, I told the host we need to move on. I'm done. I was done. And also at the same time, it was like 8 o'clock at night. Me and my wife haven't had dinner yet, and and my wife was giving me an evil glare because she was getting hungry.
Yeah, I know how that
So,
glare looks. It's
oh
scary.
yeah. Oh yes. When you got your wives when they're getting hangry, you better sit there and get them some food.
Yes.
So I'm trying to hurry this along. So then they finally moved on to the next question. And this question, like I heard the host on what he said, but the question was just so weird that it's like it didn't really my brain wasn't comprehending, like, are you seriously asking this question? So the question was, if so many people are saying that they hate Nintendo games, but they're pirating them and playing them, what is my reasoning for it? And you guys can give your opinion in a second on it, but I said that, well, if they're saying that they hate Nintendo games, but they continue to play them, whether it's piracy or buying, well, I didn't say that in that way, but that's what I'm saying now. Whether it's piracy or they're buying them, they obviously must like them, because I don't know people that are going to sit there and continue to play certain games that don't enjoy them. They may sit there and play a game and try it out and end up not liking it. But if you don't like certain games, why are you going to continue to play those games? That just didn't make sense to me. And Shadow actually agreed. What do you guys think on that question?
So
So,
I'll let Blast go
uh,
first, and I'll go second.
so with that, with people shitting on
And Shadow went away.
criticizing Nintendo games.
We don't know what you
Uh,
said, bud. You
Uh,
cut out.
sorry.
yeah, yeah, you cut out.
This was specifically about people who shit on Nintendo games and then go around and pirate them.
Yeah.
So in that case, those people aren't really looking at them as I'm going to play the game. They're looking at
Oh,
that
okay.
as a win over Nintendo. Because there's
Oh, okay,
somebody
okay.
like Alex, for example. Oh no, it's Alex. He will pirate a Nintendo game because he wants to play the game. He
Yeah,
wants to play Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, but he doesn't want to either because he doesn't want to A, buy it on Switch, and B, play at a sub standard resolution and frame rate. He will pirate it and then play it on his PC. He's doing that because he wants to show Nintendo, I am willing to buy your game.
yeah,
You just need to put it where I want you to.
yeah.
There are people like him that will do that, but there are
Same.
also other people that will go out and pirate for nefarious reasons to get a win and a W and an own on Nintendo, and I fully disagree with that.
So here's my 3 reasons why people will pirate, because it's literally what Gaben even says. And it's what most devs have pretty much adopted. The reason to pirating, either they don't agree with the prices of said game, because that's possible. Mario Kart World being 80, it shouldn't be. It should be 50. That's why it's in the bundle for 50. They don't agree that it's not available in certain places. I believe that every game should be available everywhere, except for maybe mobile, but they should eventually be able to be available on mobile. I
Agreed.
and the other one is, yes, they just don't like the company and they just want to use it as a own, kind of like Japan hates Xbox. What a
Hmm.
fucking loser, by the way.
Oh, yeah. But do you see a person? Because the way they asked the question, the way I took it as, and as also Shadow took it that way too. At least I think he did. Is if someone just absolutely hates Nintendo games, do you see them, whether they're buying them or pirating them, do you see them actually playing those games if they really hate them?
No.
No.
Okay, yeah. See, that's why I got so confused on it, and then surprisingly, me and him just agreed on that on when it came down to that one.
It's
Now for the next
how
okay, I'm not going to go over that question because I didn't fully understand the question, and then come to
what
find out it was about the Switch tax.
what was
But
the
this one,
question real quick? I
what?
just want to hear. What was the question real quick?
Oh,
I do want to
oh, the
hear
one I got confused.
it.
Oh, okay, so it was how do I phrase it? Okay, so someone said like, well, if we want the game on a physical cartridge, instead of having the third party people pay it, we can pay it. But the way they kept phrasing it, I just didn't fully understand. So I thought they might have been talking about the whole Switch tax thing, where they're charging an extra $10 to put it on the physical cartridge instead of putting it on a
Yeah,
game key card, which I was I was
I feel like
against.
they're
But
trying to make it to where. So I feel like I'm just gonna go in a nutshell. In a nutshell, it sounds like they want the game to cost more if it's on physical. If that's what you're saying, and that's what I'm getting at, because that's what I'm
Mhm,
hearing. That is insanely stupid. That is so
yeah, I
damn
agree.
stupid. It's sad.
Yeah, even Shadow pretty well, he didn't say it as rash as you did, but even he sat there and said, "No, well, like, why are we bailing out the third party companies?" Is what he said.
Angry.
You know,
If you
so
didn't want a rash person, you wouldn't have invited me to the call. Okay.
oh, I know. Trust me. Oh yeah. Well, hey, if someone ever wanted to debate and they wanted me to bring someone with me, I don't think I would pick you, Desire, because I'm afraid that you'll do some name calling. To be
I
honest.
wouldn't name call. I would just call them out for being a moron. That's about it.
Yeah. See, and then yeah, you can see it getting heated real quick. All right.
I
So
wouldn't
the
get
next
heated. I'd just
question.
laugh at them.
All right. So for the next question that was asked, which was honest, I had a feeling one of these questions were going to come up, and this one is more for Blast because Blast went and got a Switch 2, you know,
My
but
kids
for
have them
some
at my
reason,
grandparents at my grandparents their grandparents' house.
yeah. But see, the thing is, they for some like a lot of these Nintendo people, they for some reason think that all of us in the Salt community just think the same. We all
No,
play the same games. We all think
no.
exactly the same. So the question was, because I sat there and said, I'll go get a Switch too if I can get one pre-owned. And the person was like asking, So isn't that betraying your community? And I thought at first they were meaning like my subscribers. Come to find out, it was talking about all of us. Am I betraying
No.
you guys if I go and buy one? And I sat there and said no, because I've never told people to not buy a Switch 2. I told them that if they're going to buy one, they should buy it pre-owned so Nintendo doesn't get your money. But I sat there and said that I told many people to not buy Mario Kart World, so I will never go buy Mario Kart World. If I go out and buy Mario Kart World, that would make me a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with Desire and you, if I go out and buy a Switch 2, am I betraying the Salt community?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
No. Let me give you an example. Let me
I'll
give
let
you an
Blast go
example.
first.
So this happened. Delta, he's one of the members of the Salt community. He does Salt Shakers with Alex, Klutzy, Monley, that group. He went out and bought a Switch 2. And Frit even told him, "Why are you buying it?" He said, "It's my money. I'm going to do what I want to do." I bought my Switch 2 for the purpose of review. Gara may buy a Switch 2 if his community hits a goal. It is not betraying our communities and this community of salt miners to go out and buy a Switch 2. What is betraying us is then going back on your word.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you went out and bought Mario Kart World for $80, that would be a betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Not you going out and buy a Switch 2. That specific act.
So, I'll give my 2 cents. I stood and stated how much I utterly detest that damn thing, so I never will purchase it. My parents did for my kids, but so when they're at their house, they have something to play, which is good for them, you know. But I won't go out and purchase it, and I don't hate on you for purchasing it. That's not like I despise turn-based games, all right? There's very few games that I'll play, but Blast loves them, and I don't hate on him for loving them. Does that make sense? Is that a good analogy?
Yeah.
Like I don't like Expedition 33. I understand it's a good game. I don't like it. So, when people like Spectre, I know Spectre likes it, Gar likes it. I know Alex I think's tried it. I know
No,
Blast
he's fucking beat it already.
Yeah, I know a lot of them have played it and they really like it, and I it's just not for me. I like high action, really badass games where you're just beating shit up. That is me. It's why I like wrestling so much. I mean,
Mhm.
and I don't
I get it.
expect everybody to like the same games I like, and I'm not gonna hate on you for liking a game. I'm gonna hate on you if you like said game and then shit on another game. I don't like that. If you like one game and you're not shitting on another game and you're like, oh, it just destroys it, Harmon Smith.
Oh, I know.
Because I just go by numbers at that point because I'm not going to sit there and have an actual argument of game versus game. Like, if we're comparing, for instance, let's compare My Little Kitty Island Adventure to World of Warcraft. You'd go off of sales because they're nothing comparable. There's
Oh, yeah.
nothing. And I find it insane that somebody would be like, "Oh, aren't you going back? Unless you're going back on your word, who cares?" Like I said I don't like $80 games, but my wife fucking loves the Outer Worlds and she already pre-ordered the motherfucking the deluxe edition of 2 and I didn't know.
Oh, damn.
So, I'll be playing that just staring at
I'm
my
gonna
wife.
play it on Game Pass. I'm playing on Game Pass.
Yes,
So
and
that's more because I'm
that's
just
what I'll be telling people. I'll be
Oh.
like, "Look, get it on Game Pass. My wife bought this, so we're gonna play it because I'm gonna get my $90 out of this motherfucker."
Oh, yeah. I just think it's funny because like I've said stuff before and I'll like watch back on Nintendo Prime's reaction. I remember I sat there and said because through the whole debate and we'll get into the next topic in a second,
Mhm.
but in that debate, like I didn't know this, but when I went back and watched Nintendo Prime's reaction, apparently the chat wanted me to explain why I'm against $80 games, which I've done in many of my videos. I have gone into detail why I don't like $80 games. But the
I've
thing was they weren't really asking the correct question because they want to know why Mario Kart World wasn't worth $80. And I've stated many times no
it's
game is worth $80.
All right, so let's just compare because it's a next game of an already existing IP. So you're gonna have to sell it to me again because it's the same game basically in a nutshell,
Yep.
correct? That's what we can all agree that Mario Kart World and Mario Kart 8 same game, just different mechanics and a
I
few other things and graphics and
yeah,
all that. But you know what I
I would say
mean.
it's a little different, but yeah,
It's a little different, but you know what I mean. Okay?
yeah,
You get what I'm gisting what the gist is with this
yeah.
conversation. So,
Oh yeah,
how does it have less tracks than a $60 game because it released at 60 originally?
yep.
How does it have less customization? How does it have less just how does the graphics look worse?
Oh
How
yeah,
does the game not have 200cc? I know that that's probably going to happen, but it's ridiculous that it doesn't. Okay?
yeah.
Why would they remove the one thing that everybody was liking in the random thing and instantly make it to where, oh, we're going to have intermissions as well? Why would you even add the intermissions when nobody likes that shit because it's terrible? I just went on that with Gara's thing
Oh,
today.
I know. Oh, I
I
bet.
I was not
I'll
happy.
rewatch it tonight.
I gave it like a minute. It was like 60 seconds of me just going. I was like, I can explain it to a T because Harmon tried to defend it, and I was like, look, I can debate it straight down to 60 seconds, and I can prove exactly why nobody likes it.
Yep.
But I'm not going to here because I already did.
Oh, I get it. Oh yeah, but so the chat they want the audience wanted me to sit there and explain why, and you know what, that's a topic for a whole nother debate. If someone's watching this, I don't generally back down when it comes to debates. As long there's only two people I will not debate. I will never debate Player Essence, and I will never debate Harmon Smith. Anybody else, hey, if you have a YouTube channel and you're a content creator, I got no problem doing debates with
Don't
you.
debate
But when
Reforge.
it
Do not.
honestly, I would probably fall asleep. There's a reason why you guys have never seen me react to Reforge. I've tried to I don't know understand how you and Gara can do it so much. I've tried to react to Reforge and I've
Because
literally started falling asleep. I
he
find them so
starts
boring.
disrespecting his fans. That's the moment that me and Gara get tired
Oh,
of it.
okay.
We don't.
Mhm.
Okay, I get it.
I
I just
I
find them
have a
so
tendency of
boring.
cussing him out for that.
Oh, I just find them so boring.
He
That's
is
the
a
thing.
pretty
I find
boring
Harmon
dude.
Smith more entertaining than Reforge.
That's because he at
Well,
least
with
can somewhat has a personality. I mean, it's disgusting
Yeah.
and a vile person, but I mean, he has a personality. Reforge is can't say that.
Yeah. Ugh.
He's iDubbbz. If anyone knows what I'm gonna say, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh yeah. But so like I wasn't gonna get into that one because I'm trying to hurry it up, get it over with. Because if I would have sat there and went into that one with the whole $80 thing, that would have sparked a whole another debate between me and Shadow, and I was not in the mood to continue that one on. But so they got into the next question, which is and the reason why is because I don't know if you know who you might not know who this person is, but with Nintendo Prime and the Nintendo people, they got like this huge fan person. Her name is Joycey J, but I call her Juicy J. That's her nickname.
Uh,
And I'm like, I'm surprised she hasn't asked a question. She always has something to say.
was that the
And
was that the lady with the Steam Deck, or am I losing my sanity? That
I
Harmon
don't know if
said
she
that
had a Steam.
was it the one second, I'm gonna show a video
Well,
and
I know she doesn't have like a gaming YouTube channel or
oh,
anything. I
okay.
know that. Yeah.
Okay,
So
because
so
there was a YouTube thing that Harmon said if you have a Steam Deck, you should just be put in jail. And I thought it was that lady. That's instantly what I
no,
thought of.
no. Well, if it was, I don't know if she has a Steam Deck or not. But she finally asked a question, and she asked um pretty much, what about GTA at $100?
Shouldn't
Would I
be.
support it
No.
and or why? And I said,
Fuck
no,
no.
no game is worth $100. And then Shadow was like, well, I didn't hear the and why part. So I didn't realize that she asked why, which I would not have gone into detail why, because that's the topic for a whole nother debate again. And so he asked me, well, what about if it comes out at $80? And I said, no game is worth $80. And then he was like, well, what about 70? And I said, I don't know. That depends on the game. Well, I mean, I'll have to wait for it to come out to know if it's actually worth 70 or not.
People are already stingy at
Because
$70 games, and now you're trying to go up to 100. I will
oh,
state,
exactly.
I want to go just real quick. It's going to be really
Yeah.
fast. Let's say
Okay.
GTA has over 500 hours, the same thing that Baldur's Gate 3 does in just Act 1, all right? Let's say that GTA 6 has 500 hours of story, like actual story, and it's decent and it's not like just this bullshit. And there's no microtransactions. I still wouldn't think it's worth $100. I
Neither would
don't
I.
think I don't
And you
think that
know they're gonna
any
have
video game should be
microtransactions.
worth that shit. And you know they're going to, because GTA Online makes them a fuck ton of money. It's the reason why we lost Bully and a
Mhm.
few other things. I'm going on a tangent.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I get it. You know, but because like I remember I said this in another debate, and I remember who Nintendo Prime was like, "Oh, you better hope Alex don't hear you saying that, or you better hope Pertanga doesn't hear you saying that." Like, I think that they think that we all like talk like the only people in the Salt community I've ever talked to, is you, Blast, and Gar. I've never. If I have, I didn't realize that they were apart, but I've never talked to Frit and I've never talked to Alex. But I sat there and stated, and I've explained why that I'm against the $80 and the $70. Whether we like it or not, $70 is the standard for AAA games at this moment. So I've accepted it. So when I review a game, I'm basically like, if it's on that $70 point, my standards for a review is based off of that 70. $80 is not the standard. So I'm going to continue to fight to push back against these $80 games.
I I
Now if
I feel like we're
what?
actually starting to push against the $70 thing now, which is quite nice to see. I think that that's
Oh,
starting to get pushed back, and it's really nice
I would love
Yeah,
for games to go under 70.
because the
right
biggest
now,
sold games of this year are Oblivion Remastered and Clair Obscur. So
Mhm.
which are both $50.
I thought there were 40.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they are 50.
No, they're both 50.
Oh yeah. So like for me, if a game's gonna be worth $70, I have a very strict criteria of what it means. Now, let's say GTA 6 comes out and you could beat the whole game in 10 hours. To me, no, 10 hours is not worth it for $70. Not
Oh,
even
no damn
close.
$70 game. No way. No,
Yeah.
no way.
So
No.
I have like standards for it. And I think they wanted me to go into depth. And it's like, again, that's a topic for a whole nother debate
That's
here.
also
We are not going to get into
biases.
that
That's
one.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's not something for a debate.
Exactly. Because like one thing in the very first topic, they were like, "Well, this is your opinion." I'm like, and I'm getting confused, and I'm like, "Well, of course it's my
You
opinion.
asked
This
for
is
the opinion.
yeah." Well, because I thought that we were. Well, the thing was, I thought we were debating if the Switch 2 was a Switch Pro, and to my knowledge, we can't prove. There's no factual way to prove that the Switch 2 is a Switch Pro. It's all going to be based upon opinion and
Well,
how you feel.
if you want to actually do it numerically, you could break down what a pro is and pro console
Yeah.
wise, and but it doesn't seem like they're trying to do it that way at all.
No, no, no. So yeah, but I thought that question that they were asking about GTA was a good question, and then so there's two more questions that was asked. Well, there's technically three, but one got into political, and I sat there and said I don't do the political stuff on my channel, so I passed and didn't answer the question. But
Yeah.
um,
Was
they
it
they
about
asked about
tariffs? I'm guessing.
no, it was about should we add communism into the gaming industry? And I'm like,
Answer is
Oh,
no.
oh,
Fuck no.
hell no. Oh,
No.
hell
I don't
no.
talk political stuff, so I'm like,
It
no,
may not
we're
be
we're, we're gonna
politics,
move
Like,
but
on.
not communism at all. Fuck no.
Yeah. Well, I don't get into that
like I
stuff.
heard that, I'm like, oh, it's tariffs. Oh, hell no.
Oh,
Why the hell is that even talked about? What the?
I know. But well, if it would've been tariffs, I would've talked about it. I have no problem talking about the tariffs part. But the next question was about the NSO. They asked me specifically, was it worth the price? And
No.
they told me what's included with it, how much it costs per year, because I didn't know everything about it. And so for $50 for the Switch 2 a year, you get you get those backward games, you get all that stuff. I think $50 for a whole year is fair. I think
So
it's better than what the PlayStation Plus is.
oh yeah, but I feel like paying online period is stupid. I do. I think it's fucking dumb. I
Yeah.
think that consoles doing that is fucking insanely stupid. It should not exist. I'm very against that. I have straight up said how against I am it to where I've literally just been I will go into details of how much I hate that you have to pay for online just to access it on a fucking plastic box.
Yeah,
I can't
I agree
stand it.
with that too. I agree with that too. And especially with Nintendo, their servers,
Their servers are ass. And
they are
Um,
if you're
they are
like,
the
"Oh, maybe it's
worst.
the game that you really want." All of those games you can already play on PC for free and they don't give a shit.
This is the thing about Nintendo servers, is that they are the worst out of the three main console manufacturers. Their
by a
service is
far.
also the cheapest.
Hmm.
The problem is that what you're getting with it are games that I should be able to buy separately. When you look at something
Oh,
like
okay.
PS Plus, all their games I can buy separately. When you look at Xbox Game Pass, all their
Mhm.
games I can buy separately. Nintendo is the only one that does not allow me to buy those games separately. And that's where I have the problem. They can include
That's
those
another
games
problem.
as a bonus, like how Xbox has Xbox Game Pass and how PlayStation has their PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium services. My problem is when I cannot go to the Nintendo eShop, buy the copy of Wind Waker that they use, and play it without having to have the service active.
My least.
If they allowed me
Oh wait.
to buy it, then I would be completely fine. I would not be completely fine with having to pay for online, but I could see the value proposition in it.
Yeah.
But
And I
when
find
you
that.
lock content behind a service, that's where I have a problem.
And I also think that that's stupid, especially considering you can already emulate it, and all they're doing is emulate it. You can emulate it on your PC. Like, no
Yeah.
disrespect, which means you can emulate it on your Steam Deck and ROG Ally and all the other handhelds that end up ever happening. It's just, I don't understand why people are so excited to play old games and pay money just to have access to them. And then if you stop paying, you don't have access to them anymore. It is stupid. You should, and with Blast, I will agree. Even if they were going to allow it to buy it, I bet you money they would charge it max, like full price. That is another problem
Oh,
I have with
well, yeah.
Nintendo, is that they don't fucking drop their game prices. It pisses me
Hmm.
off.
Oh yeah, it drives me crazy too. Oh yeah. So, I still think for what you get with the NSO for $50 for a full year, compared to what PlayStation, what they charge, like between the big three, I think Game Pass is the best subscription out there between them three.
Yeah.
Even though I was shocked to find out that they got more users on the PlayStation Plus and on the Nintendo NSO. And Nintendo barely has more than Game Pass. I would have thought Game Pass had more
Mm-mm.
people on it than the other three because of the PC, but come to find out, no, I was shocked when I looked that one up.
Well, you also have to remember that PlayStation the biggest when it comes to like
Yeah.
subscription services. PlayStation the biggest. I know Nintendo has sold the most consoles, but you also have to remember how many of those people bought a Switch 2
Switch
Switch
1 during COVID.
to just to
Yeah.
play Fortnite, Minecraft, and Mario Kart. You have to
Yeah.
realize that is a sizable chunk
Yeah.
of the amount of Switches bought. I know a person that did that. It was my sister. All she plays on it is Fortnite, Minecraft, and fucking Mario Kart. She does not pay for online. So, looking out at the three, the largest user base that will pay for online will be the PlayStation. The second
Yeah.
largest, just due to its immense size, is the Switch.
Yeah.
And then the third is Xbox. That's why it
Oh, yeah.
goes like that.
Oh, yeah. But I would have thought with, because one thing I love about Game Pass is you get the newer titles, that Xbox owns day one. I would have thought that one alone would attract so many people to Game Pass.
Yeah, but the problem is that a lot of people just wait for Steam sales anyways.
Oh, okay. Got
Mhm.
you.
That's just the problem, because you have to think, if you're gonna only buy like 3 games that year from Xbox, you can get them on Steam sale for like maybe $5 that year. It's great. Steam sales are fucking insane. You cannot compete with them. They are fucking crazy.
Oh, okay. Hey, there you go. So for the last question that was asked, and um, I didn't really go too into depth with it. He did, and I just conceded with them. Said, okay, I'm going to say that he's correct, give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know about the whole Wii U. I've been very honest, never played it, never had a want to play it, so I don't know too much. But the question was, why was the Wii U hated so much, and why did the Switch come back around for Nintendo? And I
Oh,
said
I can
that
I
explain
can
this.
explain that.
I know.
I
Hold
can
on. I'm
explain
just gonna
this
say
thing on
what
the
I
Wii U.
said, and then I'll explain what he said. But I sat there and said that I believe probably the Wii U had due to poor marketing. When I saw it in the stores, I thought it was an accessory. I didn't know it was an actual next gen console. And then I said with the Switch, the reason why it came back around was the Switch itself was, on the go at a good price. The graphics were good enough, and they did have some great first party titles. That's what I said. I just kept it short and sweet. He started going on a tangent, and he was like, well, the reason why the Wii people hate the Wii U is because they were told to. He went into great detail about he saw grown men shaming, people for liking Nintendo. And then he said that, I'm paraphrasing, he went a lot longer, but he said with the Switch, it was more of like the middle finger to the gaming industry, and people bought it out of spite for the gaming industry.
No.
So what do you guys think about that? What he said, and then give your
So-
guys' opinion.
So
Okay.
he's can I go first, Blast? Because
Go ahead.
you did buy a Wii U from my knowledge, correct?
I have a Wii U.
I did not. But I do know why I didn't. Again, I have family members that had the damn thing. We all thought it was just an accessory to the fucking piece of shit. And that's not
Yep.
hating on the Wii. I liked Wii Sports. I liked Wii Sports Resort, and I liked the Mario and Sonic Olympic Games shit. That was all awesome. Those were some great games on the Wii. But
Yep.
I didn't want another device where I had to freaking sit there and deal with the janky point my hand at the screen just to try to be able to click a game. That was ridiculous. That was so dumb. And the Wii U, it's just a necessity. Now, I'll state this. The reason why that didn't sell well is because everyone thought it was an accessory. The marketing was absolutely terrible for that fucking game console. It really was. That was what kneecapped the Wii U. Now, the main reason why the Switch 2 did so well, or Switch did so well, is because people were kind of locked down in their households. It was $150, and you could get games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for what? In total, maybe $200. You could get a console you can bring wherever you go. In the middle of, you have to stay 6 feet away from everybody, and you're pretty much on lockdown. So getting money was really, really rough. You could get a brand new game and a new device for next to nothing. And it was okay for what it did. It was. I may think that the Switch is a piece of shit, and I do. But that doesn't mean that it was just like the most worthless piece of shit. No, it was just majority of its sales came during a time when we were not able to leave. It's no offense. That's the same with a lot of devices. Majority of their sales during that time period were because we could not go anywhere. So since you're staying at home or you're going to be going somewhere, but you have to stay certain distances from people, you're going to want to have a handheld device. That's why the Steam Deck was selling at that time period pretty well too, even though it's only you can only get it through the Steam store. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Now, before you get into your thing, I just want to say one quick thing. Whoever got a Switch at $150, you guys are lucky because I bought a pre-owned one. I had to pay $250 for mine, so I wish I could have got mine for $150.
I got it for like $120.
All right. So, when it comes to the Wii U, there were 3 major factors. The first was simply put, the marketing was terrible. People did not know that this was a separate device from the Wii. Because when you look at all the marketing, it showed the gamepad off primarily. The console was in the background. So most people thought, oh, that's just a Wii because they look so similar.
And then they had the similar names, so everyone was like, duh, it's the
Yeah.
same.
And even then, afterwards, instead of Nintendo trying to show off the unique features of the Wii, they made it so that all the commercials were just commercials aimed at kids. And even as a kid, during the time that the Wii U launched, those commercials made me not want a Wii U. They literally did the opposite of what a commercial should do, which is to incentivize someone to buy a product. Those commercials decentivized you from buying the product. The second problem was the lack of third-party support. There was no third-party support. In the first year, you had some third-party support. The last holdout was Ubisoft. And then they released Watch Dogs. And Watch Dogs on the Wii U is one of, if not the worst ports in history. It runs terribly, can barely hit a consistent frame rate in the teens, and looks worse than even the terrible looking 360 and PS3 version. They gave up on the Wii U after that because the Wii U was hard to develop for. Architecturally, it used the same CPU that was used in the Wii, which was the same CPU used in the GameCube. If you don't know what that CPU was based on, it's the same CPU that was used in iMac G3s. So imagine trying to develop a game that was made for the PS4 and Xbox One on a CPU from 20 years ago. Imagine trying to. And then the third problem was price. It never had a price drop. It needed a price drop desperately, and they couldn't drop the price because of the gamepad. The gamepad was too expensive. So, during the lead up to the Switch, the Wii U was going through its dark era, as we would call it. Terrible games. Some of the worst that Nintendo's ever released came out during that time. You have Mario Tennis Ultra Smash.
Oh,
The
yeah, that was
worst
bad.
Mario sports games. One of the worst Mario sports games ever made. Chibi Robo Ziplash. One of the worst games that Nintendo has ever made. And then you have Paper Mario Color Splash. One of the worst in that series. So you're coming up with this, and every single person that likes Nintendo is looking at the time what was called the NX to show them something good. And it did. When the Nintendo NX was unveiled as a Nintendo Switch in that trailer, they knew how to market it. They marketed it and focused it on young adults, first and foremost. They showed it off by someone bringing it and playing Mario Party with friends at a party. And they showed another thing: third party support. The two main games that they showed off during that initial unveiling were Skyrim and 2K. At the time, in 2017, portable Skyrim was a pipe dream. And then Nintendo showed it off like it was nothing. That got people interested. And then you see all these other games get ported to a portable system. And then people wanted to buy it because then they saw, I can play Doom on the go. I can play Skyrim on the go. I can play Wolfenstein on the go. I can play all these games in the palm of my hand.
Mhm.
That was the main draw of the Switch to many of the hardcore that people saw. This is a way for me to play these games that I want to play on the go. Then COVID happened, and the Switch was the cheapest console out of the big three at the time.
Yep.
And not only that, during COVID was when the PS5 and the Xbox Series were released. And if you remember that, those were unobtainium.
$1,000. Yeah, they were
You
fucking
could not
stupid.
buy them. But you know what you could buy? A Switch for $300. And not only that, but that same year, Animal Crossing released.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it elevated the Switch and skyrocketed. And it kept selling.
Didn't Mario Kart 8 Deluxe come out that year too?
Nope, that was launch year.
Oh, that was launch year.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
That was launch year. And along with that, everyone knew when you buy a Nintendo system, the only way to play Nintendo's games is on the Switch. Which led to people buying these $300 and $200 consoles with all these games to play only Nintendo games or games that they want to play on the go.
Mhm.
That's why the Switch was more successful than the Wii U. It took the Wii U's idea of the gamepad, and they actually figured out, instead of having a controller with a screen, let's make the console portable. And that's what they did. And then they made sure to have good third-party support throughout the entirety of the console. It's why I say Nintendo's trying to recreate what they did with Skyrim with Cyberpunk. But they can't, because Cyberpunk is already on PC handhelds and runs better.
And looks better.
And it looks better. And that's what
Mhm.
we're running into with the Switch 2, is that the Switch 1 released with no competition. The Switch 2 is coming into the gate with competition that either beat it, that either match it, or exceed it. And right now, with the looming threat of something like the ROG Ally X that Xbox is working on, if they price it right, it
Yep.
could lead to the Switch 2 not having as great sales as people would think. Simply
Yep.
put, if that thing's $400 base, they're going to have less sales. Because why would I go and buy a Switch 2 for $450 when the ROG Ally X, the Xbox ROG Ally, god damn it, that's a stupid name.
Yeah, it is very
Why would I
stupid
go
fucking name.
when I can go buy that and only pay $12 a month and be able to play every single Xbox game day one?
Yep.
Which includes every single Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, all of their studios, day one.
Mhm.
And then
And
yeah, and you have your Steam
all my
library.
Steam library, my GOG library, my Epic library, everything.
And then you have
Yep.
emulation on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's even
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's now if it's also available in public stores, that would also help
It will. It is. It already is.
I did not
Like
know
the
that.
ROG Ally right now and the Legion Go are already in stores. The problem with those is that the general consumer doesn't know what an Asus is. They don't know what a Lenovo is. They know what an Xbox is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And like you said, it's all going to depend on that price. I remember I heard the rumors where they were talking about like 900, 1,000. If they do come out with that price, I don't see it winning. I really
It's
don't.
dead on
That is
arrival. If
too.
it's $900,
Yeah.
it's dead
No
on
way.
arrival. It has to be
There is no way.
$400 base,
Mhm.
$600 for the X.
I feel like
That's how it has to be.
I feel like what it'll be is the white one will be like 500 something, and then it'll be like 700 for the X. I think that is
Even
what they're gonna
then,
do.
it's screwed. Even then.
That's what I
Oh, yeah.
think
Because
it's
at
gonna be.
$500, you're more expensive than the Steam Deck. You're more expensive than the Switch 2. You're reaching the price of a base ROG Ally. You're just too expensive at that point. You have to
Yeah.
be competitive with the Switch 2 and with the Steam Deck. That's
Oh, yeah.
why I say
It's
$400 base.
Oh yeah, and I don't know how you two feel about this one. Like, I want the Xbox Rogue Ally to succeed, but I don't want Nintendo to fall or anything. I like competition.
Oh
Competition
yeah,
is good for
competition is
everybody.
what
Oh
breeds
yeah,
good games. But I
Oh
believe
yeah,
that's
that
so
why I want the ROG Ally X, the
yeah,
Xbox Ally to succeed. That's why I want PlayStation to make another portable console that is as good as the PSP.
That's
oh
why I
yeah,
want.
Because I
not the
don't
PSP though.
want
PSP, yes.
because I don't want Nintendo to be running around basically having a monopoly on the portable market. And the problem is that yes, there are some people that know what the Steam is, but the Steam Deck isn't sold in normal stores.
it's
And
only
most
sold on
normal
Steam and
consumers
limited
don't know what
supply.
the fuck Asus and fucking Lenovo are. So what Xbox is doing is genius. Because they don't know what an Asus is, but they know what an Xbox is.
Yeah.
And Xbox doesn't have to completely redesign the hardware, doesn't have to completely develop a new hardware from the ground up. and now they can. And now Asus has their brand new problem fixed, and Xbox has an entry into the handheld market. It's also
Yep.
why I want PlayStation, instead of doing the stupid thing that they did with the Portal and making it basically a paperweight without a PS5 or a subscription, go
Yep.
out and make a fucking portable console. I want
Yeah.
competition.
Oh, so do I. Well, so we're just going to do a quick recap of it because there was one thing I forgot to say during the second topic, because a lot of people sit there and try to say that I didn't come prepared. I actually did come very prepared for the two topics. The problem was I was debating a different topic point than what I thought it was supposed to be, unfortunately, which again, I've owned up that was my fault. I should have asked more. But when it came to the second topic, I knew because I've heard this so many times when I was trying to talk about whose fault it was for the game key cards, a lot of Nintendo people like to say it's like, well, Nintendo, puts their games on a physical cartridge, and I sat there and told them, and I squashed this one really quick, and I just want to know how you guys feel about this one. If we should praise Nintendo for this, they always like to say, well, Nintendo's put their games physically on a cartridge. I sat there and said that it's irrelevant. That's the bare minimum. It's their platform. Of course, they should put it on a physical cartridge. I would expect nothing less. It's completely different, when a third party does it versus when a first party does it. It's their platform. So, what do you guys think about that?
Of course, yeah. If they do a key card and it's their fucking game on their device, you can bet I'll make a video covering that shit because I'll be pissed.
Oh yeah.
This is what I have to say. They have no excuse. I fucking hate what Xbox is doing right now because
I do
they
too.
are they are doing, oh, you don't get the full game on the disc. Oh, we're just gonna give you download codes.
Which
Fuck
is something
that.
PlayStation's
You
doing
make
now.
the console. You make the fucking console. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for you to do that shit.
Oh, yeah.
None. If you want me to buy physical, give me a fucking reason to buy physical. Because I know what Xbox is doing. They're gonna give you a reason not to buy physical. They don't want you to buy physical because then they have to pay the retailer, and then they have to pay the shipper, and then they have to pay the person that drove the
And
fucking
there's a chance
copies.
of them not even selling you the game because you can just resell it. So that's why I feel like the next Xbox and the next PlayStation, they're not going to have a disc drive. I honestly believe that. I really do. I've said
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Probably.
I've said it for months and months and months. I was like, look, the PS5 Pro did really good numbers. The Xbox Series S, even though it is a piece of garbage, it sold really well because people don't care about fucking disk drives anymore. They are becoming so irrelevant, and it's starting to really, really make me sad because I don't like how games are being pretty much ripped from that, and then you can just shut down the game. So that means if you have a physical copy, what's the point? Look at Xvault. He bought 3 Concords. I find that insane, but he bought 3
Hey, I
games
kind
that now
of
you
wish I
can't even
did.
play.
He
I kind of
bought
wish I
3
did. You know how much
paperweights.
well, yeah, but you know how much those things are worth now?
Oh, they're worth
How
a
much?
lot because they're a
Oh
game
yeah,
that you can't even play anymore. It's literally
Oh,
just
I
yeah.
know.
a collector's item.
I would. I wish I would have bought it. You know how much money you could have made on that?
Yeah, you can sell it right now for a couple hundred.
Exactly. All right. So, do you guys want to shout out your channels? Let people know. I'll tag you guys down in the description and let people know. But you guys can shout your channels out. Tell them what you guys got coming up.
Let Blast go first.
Desire, do you want to go first?
You go first, Blast. You're the younger.
All right. Well, you can find me at youtube.com/blast1314. I do sell content, but right now I'm working on a big review for the Switch 2 where I'm going to be completely honest with it. But I also do streams every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. If you want to come on by and stop on by, that would be very appreciated. All right. Go ahead, Desire.
Hi, it's me, Dezire. I'm the goofy goober that does all the voices, Jimmy. But basically, you can catch me either messing around with my friends, or you can catch me doing salt content myself, or even Salt Bingo, where I beat up people like AngryVigilante, and I'm still undefeated now, 8-0. Backhanded compliment. But anyways, yeah, you can come catch me live, or you can catch me not live. It doesn't really matter. I'm just busy being an idiot on the internet.
All right. And I'm still doing 2 videos a day. I know that some people are trying to get me to debate a couple other people, so only time will tell if that's going to happen. But all right, until next time, guys, stay vigilant.